Okay, be honest. Have you ever been told in a running shop that you overpronate and therefore you need this special shoe and that's going to solve all your problems? Maybe you went into a running shop and they filmed you on a treadmill, a gait analysis, and then they told you you got high arches, you overpronate, you underpronate, you're flat-footed, but all the solutions to your problems are in the back of the store. Just wait 1 minute. Running gait analysis is everywhere now, and some of it is solid science, and most of it pure sales pitch. In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly why this started, how if it can be useful to you, and most importantly, how you can choose the best running shoes for you.
I'm Lee Grantham, a coach and professional ultra runner who went from running a marathon in 4 hours and 25 minutes to running a marathon in 2 hours and 21 minutes. And within an 11-month period, I went from 3 hours and 25 for the marathon to 2 hours and 37 minutes. That's a 48-minute jump. And I did that because I started to do the right things well. And if you want to make massive improvements in your marathon time, you want a serious breakthrough, and you want to start doing the right things consistently well and get them working for you, then book a call in the description and we can see if we're a coaching fit.
So let's start with a positive. Done right, running gait analysis can show you how you move over the ground, and it looks at how your foot strikes the ground, how it rolls out or in, and whether your stride is balanced, and therefore what you can correct to make it more efficient and make it more smooth the way that you move over the ground. That's important. During COVID, I looked at all aspects of my running game, and that was from sports nutrition, race day nutrition, and how that applies to training, to the interval sessions I was doing, the long runs I was doing, to the way I was moving over the ground. And I went into a university with 35, 40 cameras around me looking at how I move over the ground from head to toe. And that is important, because what a lot of gait analysis will often miss or often focus on is what the foot is doing from the ankle down. And we know that that is only part of the story. One of the key things that I learned during that experience was my left arm is coming out wider, and therefore it's changing the way that I move over the ground and the way that my hips and lower back is twisting. I'm using more core than I need to. I can neaten that up and become way more efficient. And that takes practice to insert the habit, but you can make it happen. You can become a good runner, or at least a better runner than you are right now. But here's where that falls apart. And take this out of a very technical university environment. Let's take this into a running shop, where the primary goal for them to exist is to make a profit on selling running shoes to you in a period where you can go online, know your size in Nike or Adidas, whatever your preference is, and find the best deal for you online and get it delivered to your house the very next day. That's what they're competing with. And so that running gait analysis, if you think about it, started to happen 20 to 25 years ago when the internet started to become that little bit more powerful and maybe go from Web 1 to Web 2. And what we've seen since the birth of the internet is a lot of running shops have closed. And it's really unfortunate, because it's often a hub where you can go and train, you can go and get knowledge, usually run by a couple of local really good runners. And you can tap into nutrition advice and get sound advice on equipment and gear. Those stores needed to survive. And in order to survive, they needed to add value. And when you're competing against somebody who can go onto the internet and find exactly the same shoes that are in the shop for 40% less, then they need to add something that feels special, and they need to make you feel special and almost create an obligation to buy. And what that looked like is, we're gonna put a treadmill in the shop and we're gonna film you from different angles, and you're gonna spend 15 to 20 minutes because your time and the way that you run over the ground is important to us, but we're willing to invest our time into that. 15 to 20 minutes later, they'll show you what is going on with your foot, whether it's going out, in, where you're landing on the ground, and they'll come out of the back of the store with 3 options that will provide a solution to your problem, or so they say. Often, the person who is giving this advice is a student with very little experience, and often not even a runner. Their sole focus and sole purpose is to sell running shoes. And I'm not saying they're disingenuous. It's the way that they've been trained in order for those running stores to survive. And I don't think it's a bad problem that they survive. I just think that the value that they can add as a running hub, as somewhere where you can meet up and go for running social runs, is way more powerful and important as a community than putting you on a treadmill and telling that they've got the solution to all your problems after 20 minutes of looking at a set point of your body, your foot, when in actual fact the whole picture, including your injury history, needs taken into consideration. And I've had these conversations at pretty high levels with shoe companies and with retailers. And if you think about it from a running perspective and a cycling perspective, the cycling industry wasn't affected as much after the birth of the internet. And that sounds strange to say, but you understand what I mean. Because you can walk into a cycling shop, your local cycling shop, and there's a mechanic who's got a job to fix your bike, to understand the problem, and to get you back on the road. And those mechanics in cycling shops are worth their weight in gold because they're a dying breed. But for a lot of cyclists, whether it's changing a tire or fixing a spoke or something much more technical, the customer cannot do that. And therefore they need to take their bike to the shop, and therefore the components that the bike shop sells, or the replacement components, you feel obligated to buy because it's the mechanic who's putting those components onto your bike in order to get you back out onto the road. So the conversations that I was having with running retailers is, how do we create the mechanic within the running shoe store? And for me, the answer to that was very simple. As I've said, running groups. You create this running group which is ever growing, and you create customers that want to come into your store and get the advice on what shoes to wear based on your running, your goals, your running history, your training history, your injury history, etc. Not just this little test on a treadmill that is telling you potentially something incorrect or outright wrong. So where it falls apart is a lot of gait analysis is done by staff with zero training. And of course, once you know this, it's fun to see somebody on minimum wage make a sweeping judgment off a 15-second video as to which running shoes you should use for the next 500 or 1,000 kilometers, shoes that you didn't need. And it's oversimplified. Most focus is only on the foot. So you're ignoring everything else that matters. The hips, the glutes, the overall form, the arms. And then there might be some upselling. You might get sold the most expensive orthotics or a stability shoe that you don't need because there's maybe a commission involved. Is gait analysis a scam? No, but it's just one data point. It's just one piece of the puzzle when you need to be looking at the whole picture. And if you think about it in simple terms, we often solve the problem and not the cause. And so if I've spoken to a runner and 5 years ago they had a gait analysis and they're still going to that same shoe because back then it helped them to get back on the road, back running, and they feel safe with that shoe or orthotic, what it sometimes can be is the orthotic is allowing them to run in the wrong way when in actual fact what they should be addressing is an issue with the posterior chain. Maybe it's the lower back or the glutes are not firing, the hamstring not working in the right way. We run the way that we run, and we're born runners. It's very natural for us to go out there and run. And in actual fact, if you just continue to run and run more and more and more, because of human nature, you will learn to run as efficiently over the ground as you can. You will realize eventually that if you're constantly landing on your toes, it's going to put strain on your Achilles, and that won't be sustainable. If you're constantly landing on your heel, it's going to send a jolt through the body, the bones and the muscles will be affected, and so you'll have to change. If you go and run on the grass barefoot, you'll probably run a lot better than what you do with cushioned running shoes. And the fascinating thing is, with cushioned running shoes, it's what the market has demanded since the 70s and 80s. And so it's what has been supplied by the running companies. But if you look at injuries and the correlation between overly cushioned running shoes, we're getting injured more than ever. That's because the foot wants to feel the ground when it hits. So no matter how much cushioning the foot is going to with more cushioning, it's going to want to feel the ground. So it's going to press on more force, and that's going to lead to more injuries. And then we've got super shoes. If the job of a super shoe is to propel you forward instead of the oscillation, the bounce, you're getting that propulsion, brilliant. And as I've said before, the super shoe will find you 5 to 15%. It's revolutionary in running. What it will also do is give you that energy saving, that energy return. And what that feels like in reality is when you get to that 20-mile mark in the marathon, your quads are not beat up like they were previously in non-super shoes, because you've got that energy return, you've got that energy saving, it's nice and cushioned, and so you can push in the final 6 miles. If you think of the extreme and you always use those super shoes for every run, there's going to be muscle weakness because you're not developing the calves, the hamstring, the glutes in the way that they should be used. Since 2017, we've seen a lot more injuries, especially in the lower leg, especially in the calf, because it's not as strong as it was because of the reliance on super shoes. That's why a really good shoe rotation with a neutral shoe, something that's easy, something for me like a Pegasus, works really well with a faster race day shoe like the Alphafly or Vaporfly. And this is not a Nike advert, it's just the company I know most about. And so what I suggest is if you opt for just a more comfortable shoe, you're going to want to run more, and it's shown that a more comfortable shoe on your foot is going to result in less injuries. And here's what I recommend doing as well. If you look at some old shoes and you look at the sole and it's quite evenly worn, then it's likely you're neutral. And it will also be able to tell you if it's worn on the outside or the inside, whether you're overpronating or supinating. But what can you do with that advice? And this is where it's really interesting and where you can really make improvements. The most important part of the video. So for me, when I was looking under the bonnet in COVID, and one of those aspects of my running game was the way I was moving over the ground, and I wanted to become a better runner, a better style of running and move more efficiently over the ground, a lot of that meant my arms were driving. And when your arms start to drive and you think about how far away your elbow is from your side, and so if you're like this, you're going to twist more, you're going to use the core more, the lower back more, you're driving forward, your legs will follow. And so you'll start to see that your toe, ankle, knee, hip is more aligned. And what you'll find from that is you're efficiently moving over the ground much more, and therefore you're getting faster and it's much more enjoyable, but it's a focused effort in slower running with your recovery runs and easy runs. And it will come more natural when you're trying to run faster, because as a human, again, your body will want to take that shortcut, which is you running as efficiently as possible over the ground. And what it will also lead to, what it did for me, is, okay, why are these things happening? Why am I not running already in the correct way or in a better way? And then it comes down to a strengthening element. And for me, that meant, okay, there's a lot more attention now on the gluteus medius, because that's then pulling the femur in with the pelvis and running much more efficiently over the ground because they're aligned and solid, strong. And then all of a sudden, instead of going to the shop for that quick fix on the gait analysis that's going to solve all your problems, you're actually looking at the root cause of the problem. For me, that was gluteus medius. It was stronger glutes, and also more respect for the hamstring strength and the relationship between the hamstring strength and the quad strength. And then naturally, the flow from there is, okay, whilst I'm here and I'm doing this consistently on a regular basis, because I now understand from the filming how it has an impact and how I'm now running much better over the ground, then you start to look after, okay, the knee alignment together with the strong quad and the lower leg strength. And if that's more robust, along with a robust quad, then I'm getting injured less. Again, you're more efficient, so you're getting injured less, but you've got that extra level, more forward progress, and a faster runner. And a pro tip here I can give you is, if you get a physiotherapist or a physical therapist with running background, or who's used to working with runners on a regular basis, fixing the cause of the problem, not the problem, get them in your corner and do not let them leave your sight. Get their email address, their phone number, their address, everything you can about them, because like the mechanic in the cycling shop, they're worth their weight in gold to you. Not just for solving problems, and problems will happen as you're using the body in such a repetitive way, even with the most efficient style. But if you have somebody like that in your corner that you can turn to, what it enables you to do and what it frees you up to do is push harder when it really counts in training, because you know that you've got that backup who you can go to, you trust, and they will be able to solve not just the problem, but why is that happening? Infinitely more important. And what you then get to, and I don't want to bore you too much with this, but I had 2 Achilles ruptures 10 years ago. My physiotherapist was able to solve that problem with 3 simple exercises and solve the cause of the problem, not just the problem, after me being back and forth with different physiotherapists for 6 months who were using very intrusive therapy to try to get blood flow to the Achilles. And after 6 months of back and forth, running, stopping, starting, frustrated, this was all fixed within 2 weeks and I was back to running. And so what it meant for me in reality is not only did I continue that rehabilitation, then prehabilitation, that's now a continued fixture in my strength training, because I know if I look after it like preventative maintenance, it's not just a weakness, or it's not just not a weakness in my running game. It's not an area where I'm thinking, oh, I better not do that interval session too quick because of my Achilles, better not race that race because it's a bit hilly because of my Achilles. It's freedom. And if it's too late for you because you've just spent all your money on corrective shoes, then here's a couple of free videos you can overpronate to your fastest miles.